Welcome back to another video. This week going to be my top 5 tips on heat training. Things are really starting to heat up here on the Gold Coast and well in the whole southern hemisphere in total as we go into summer. So I thought what a perfect time to sort of get a refresher or some new ideas on how to handle the heat this summer. So let's go. All right, so tip number 1, slow down. It might seem obvious, might not be obvious. There's a wallaby, but you got to slow down when it gets hot. It takes more energy to run. Your body's working harder to cool down. Your heart rate's going to be higher. So it's just plain and simple. When it gets hot, you have to adjust your paces. If you're normally thresholding at like 340, you might need to slow down to like 350 to keep the right heart rate. If you do an easy run at 5 minutes, you might need to slow down to 5:30 in some places if it gets hot enough to keep your heart rate low. So tip 1, slow down, be smart, and don't let your ego run for you in summer. All right, tip number 2, hydrate. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Again, another one that seems like so simple. You're like, oh, I already thought of that. Well, a lot of people don't. You know, you lose so much more fluid in summer than you think, and electrolytes and everything. And by the time you're thirsty, it's too late. So that might mean you got to start carrying a water bottle or get a running belt. There's so many really good running packs now, or the waistband ones are even better for sort of just going out on your own. You get the flasks and all that sort of stuff, and just carry your own water. Or, you know, if you're lucky to live somewhere like the Gold Coast, when running down the beach, there's a bubbler every 20 meters pretty much. So hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And after you run, electrolytes, you got to get them back in, top it back up. A lot of the mixes now are so carb focused, and that's great for when you're running. And it's even better for when you're running in perfect weather. But it's that after you run, just make sure, even if it's a Gatorade, you know, everything's okay in moderation. Just have one Gatorade straight after the run or something like that. I like to get the Gatorade powder so that you can make up as much as you want. But hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. That's tip number 2. So let's go. It's getting warm. Tip number 3, run early. I know no one really likes getting out of bed at like 4 in the morning, but sometimes in summer on the Gold Coast or anywhere hot, you have to. And you can even just be smart with which sessions. You know, today I've been feeling a bit sick this week. That's why everything's a little bit short and to the point. So we decided, all right, the little run that I'm going to do to start wake the body up, going to go early because I don't need to be out in the heat. Same with big sessions. If you've got a really big important marathon session, it's probably smarter to say, all right, on a Sunday or Saturday, whatever day you're doing it, I'm going to get up and I'm going to be running by 4:30 or 4:45 or 5, and then go back to bed if you've got time after. Obviously it gets hard when you start putting full-time job and life and everything else into it, but you know, it's one of those things that if you can't do that, you can't go early, then you sort of got to refer back to tip 1, and that's just slow everything down a little bit. So run early where you can, when you can. Maybe just think about it for the important sessions, Tuesdays or thresholds, track sessions, long runs. I'm not sure what your schedule would be, but that's what I would think, and that's what I would try and do. And if you can't do that one, then refer back to tip 1 and just slow it down. All right, this one I got to put the little asterisk beforehand and say, do your own research, do your own proper research for this one. But tip number 4, change your mindset. Change your mindset when it comes to the heat. It can be a really powerful training tool if you use it properly and if you have the right advice for using it properly. And I'm going to refer to my notes for this one because there's a reason why they say heat training is poor man's altitude. It's it does have similar effects on your body to altitude in a very different way. So while altitude training increases your red blood cell count, which takes more oxygen to your muscles, or allows you to carry more oxygen to your muscles, heat training increases the volume of plasma in your blood, which is the fluid that all your blood cells are carried in. And I'm not going to go any deeper than that because the science is a little bit like sketchy on what the benefit actually is. Some things say that it's the higher volume of your blood lets you filter lactate better. Others are to do more with how you cool more efficiently. Do your own research. If I've gotten it wrong, I will check it after this run. I've already done research into it, but I will check it after this run and I'll pause it, and there'll be future me will be on the screen right now correcting what I've said. First of all, I've got to clear up a couple of things on that last little bit. Number one, I'm not recommending anyone go out and do heat training, specifically doing track sessions in the hottest part of the day or any of that, unless you have specific advice from a coach, sports scientist, someone like that is telling you how to do it safely. Number two, on the back of that, if you are doing heat training or using heat as more of a training tool, you've got to be kind to your body after. A session in hot weather is going to take more out of you than a session in the cold weather. So the same session done at 2 different times of the year is going to put a different load on your body. So after a session in heat, you got to make sure you're recovering properly, be kind to yourself, make sure the next couple of days might be a little bit easier, but rest, drink, put your feet up, do an ice bath, go to the beach, make sure you're doing all that properly. And number 3, and I got a little note here for it, I've muddled up my words a little bit in that last little bit. The science is not sketchy on whether or not heat training has any effect or is real. It is. Most people that enjoy running would probably know that already. The jury's out on exactly what the benefit is, but that's just from the 1 or 2 things that I looked at. I'm sure there's some very smart people out there that already know it. If you know the exact benefit that does, throw it in the comments. I just looked at 1 or 2 studies, and they said that it was kind of a bit iffy on what it actually does. They've got very strong theories, but I'm ending that there. If you want, you can go find them. I looked, I know what it said, but I don't want to get my words mixed up, and I know I will. But if you know, put it down in the comments. That's what it's for. Let me know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Always correct me if I'm wrong. If I get some things wrong, just say, hey, you got that wrong, but be nice about it. So hopefully that clears that up. Be careful, be smart, and stay safe. But it can be a really, really powerful tool, and just accepting that it's hot. It's hot. What can you do about it? You can't change the weather. Some people think they can, but you can't. So just switch your mindset up, be more positive. I always think, we live on the Gold Coast and it is always hot and disgustingly humid in summer here. But I just sort of think, how fast am I going to run when I go somewhere that it is cold? Or how much better will I handle a race when it's hot if I've trained in the heat? And I just keep telling myself, I can't go to altitude at the moment, so I'm stuck with the heat. So you got to use what you've got and to use the advantages that you've got to your advantage. But get proper advice on this one if you do want to use the heat in more of that targeted, I am going to run when it's really hot during the day, because it can be dangerous, like everything. But you get heat stroke and you put yourself out for way longer than the advantages that you gain. So get your own advice, but there is proper science behind heat training. There's a reason that the top athletes do it. If you do it properly, it can be a very powerful tool. All right, and tip 5, last but not least, be Sunsmart. If you grew up in Australia, or you live in Australia, or you're growing up in Australia, slip, slop, slap will be permanently engraved into your mind from school. It's just wear a hat, sunscreen. They say long sleeve shirt. I'm not going to yell at you if you don't wear a long sleeve shirt when it's 25 degrees at 6 in the morning. But be Sunsmart. You get burnt so quickly, and in Australia, nothing's going to put you out of running more than skin cancer. So just always wear a hat, always wear sunnies. If you're running by the water a lot, this is one that not a lot of people know of. A lot of the paddlers, my brother, he used to paddle. He has a growth on his eye from the reflection of the water going up into his eyes from not wearing polarized sunglasses. So if you're running around water a heap, especially like if you're directly next to the water, sunglasses are so crucial, polarized if they can be. And sunscreen, there's no excuse anymore. There's so many athletic sunscreens that are meant to not burn your eyes or go all runny when you sweat. I've got to work on that one. I'll put my hand up and say I'm pretty crap at wearing sunscreen. That's this summer definitely going to work on, especially in Australia. If you're in Australia, we've got that giant hole in the ozone, so the UV index in Australia just gets off the chain. The World Health Organization says like don't go outside if it's above 7 or something like that. And again, I'll put the actual number right here. I've seen days on the Gold Coast where it's like 14. So you're just going to get absolutely roasted in like 5-10 minutes, even on a morning like this where it's kind of overcast. You're like, oh, I'll be fine. So they're my tips for getting going in the heat. Maybe I'll do another one with some more tips later on in summer. But this was just a fun little video to come out and make on my 3rd run this week. I've had a bit of a cold and just getting my body moving again. So if you liked this one, subscribe. There's plenty more where this is coming from. Getting closer to the end of the year, getting closer to next year, obviously, and all the awesome stuff. We're deep in planning again. I'm going to keep badgering on about it until it happens. So subscribe. Had a really big jump last week, or a big jump when you've only got 30 subscribers. So went up to 38, I think. Again, little number down here, self-correcting. In the last week, so that was pretty cool. So hopefully you like this one. More running tips. You get something out of it. I get something out of it, and we can keep growing this community together. The Zoomfly 6s came out last week. I got to go see them when I was picking up my next pair of race shoes. Maybe I'll do a review on them in the next couple of weeks. We're going to Japan soon. I might try and buy a pair there. That'd be cool. And do a little running shoe review in Japan. Until then, I'm going to finish off my run. I've got 200 meters left. I think I have an easy day, and I'll see you next week for hopefully a slightly more exciting video.